In these missing people cases, even the FBI's top special investigation agents could not solve some very dark and disturbing true crime mysteries. These unsolved true crime stories are scary because even after the FBI reopens an investigation years later, there's a chance that missing people may still never be found. Here are 5 cold cases involving missing people that the FBI most wanted to get solved. Number 5. The mysterious disappearance of Tammy Ather and Chad Peters, who lived together in Corpus Christi, Texas, is a strange but true story that has left FBI experts without explanation. In 2018, Tammy had told her mother Roxana that she and Chad planned to drive from Texas into Mexico while he did some work as a power line technician. Roxana remembers telling her daughter not to go to Mexico because she might have a problem getting back into the States without a passport. Her mother had no idea that these were to be their final words to each other, and that both Tammy and Chad were soon to become 2 unsolved cases of missing people who have still yet to be found. On November 9, 2018, Tammy spoke with the unnamed stepmother of her children, and during this phone conversation, she mentioned that she was in Bruni, Texas, roughly 100 miles away from Corpus Christi. She was expected back in her hometown soon, but she strangely vanished into thin air instead. After a number of days passed without any contact or further explanation from anyone, Roxana reported the mysterious disappearances of Tammy and Chad to the police. Their missing person cases were eventually reopened as an FBI investigation, as was standard for any unsolved cases that potentially crossed south of the border. After reviewing the case files, FBI agents attempted to solve the mystery by examining any security footage they could find, focusing most on the last known moments of the 2018 silver Honda that Chad and Tammy drove. On November 7th, FBI agents confirmed the car was last caught on camera crossing into Mexico from Texas. They could see that it was packed with an abundance of personal belongings. To FBI investigators, this missing person case seemed like it was nothing more than a prolonged vacation, and the case was solved as far as they were concerned. However, the FBI's biggest mistake during their initial investigation was disregarding a small piece of evidence: the November 9th phone call made by Tammy to the unnamed stepmother of her children. If November 7th was when the car was caught on camera entering Mexico, and November 9th was the day that Tammy had said that she was in Bruni, Texas, then that means she was already back from Mexico 2 days before she went missing. That's a strange story that didn't exactly make sense to investigators, especially when they looked at what happened to them. Sometime during their mini vacation, Tammy had reported the Honda Civic as a stolen vehicle in Mexico. If the stories in her true crime report are true, then her driver's license was still inside the vehicle when it was taken, and she might not have brought her passport with her. Agents reasoned that it would be quite difficult to get through customs without so much as a license. The strange circumstances of this mysterious missing person case are far from solved. The missing car has yet to be recovered as well, and the criminal responsible for its theft was never found. Police investigators aren't exactly sure if Tammy and Chad disappeared in Texas, Mexico, or someplace entirely different. Tammy's family runs a regularly updated Facebook page for the missing called Bring Tammy and Chad Home. Roxana insists that her missing daughter would not suddenly vanish without a trace from her beloved children, and wants to see this mystery case solved. Anyone with additional information to help their unexplained missing person cases get solved can contact the Corpus Christi Police Department at 361-668-2802. Number 4. This is the strange but true story of Jane McDonald Crone, who on November 13, 1993, visited at least 4 country western clubs in Houston, Texas. Before she went missing, she was seen dancing with a person in blue jeans and a cowboy hat who called himself David. The 34-year-old married mother of 2 left the club by herself at around 1 a.m. while David partied on. From there, she mysteriously vanished into the cold night, leaving her family, her job, and her schooling behind. On the day she had gone missing, Jane went to work at Baker Hughes Tool Company, but she didn't go home after her shift ended, instead going straight to the clubs that she would mysteriously disappear from later. Her missing car was found parked a few miles from her home, with her school textbooks inside. Her purse and ID were still missing, suggesting she never made it back to the car after departing the club. Jane's husband reported her missing to local police on November 15, 1993, and the crime story was soon upgraded to an FBI investigation for kidnapping. FBI agents most likely got involved because Jane had potentially crossed state lines, and maybe even national borders. Overall, puzzled crime scene investigators found no signs of a struggle, and for many years the cold case seemed no closer to getting solved, until March 7th of 2021. A volunteer helping homeless people in Monterrey, Mexico, encountered a woman with an American accent who spoke fluent English. She told him her name was Jane McDonald, the same name as the woman who went missing decades ago. As they learned more about her story, investigators in Mexico obtained a DNA sample for forensic analysis. Back in the States, the mysterious disappearance of Jane McDonald had become a famous missing person mystery, with news outlets picking up on the recent sighting and even contacting Jane's siblings for interviews. On March 11th, the investigation came to an unexpected ending when the woman's DNA test showed she was a missing woman from New York who had given a false name. With no further leads, the famous mystery case is no closer to getting solved than it was in 1993. Decades later, cold case investigators at the FBI still want to get this mysterious unsolved case solved. Anyone with missing information that can help the strange disappearance of Jane McDonald should contact the FBI's Houston field office at 713-693-5000 and the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office at 936-760-5800. Number 3. The mysterious disappearance of 52-year-old James Gordon Meek is a recent missing person mystery case that has quickly grown famous because of how strange and bizarre the story has become. James Gordon Meek is a popular journalist who went missing, and people are asking questions about what happened. On April 27, 2022, an FBI raid was conducted on the top floor of the Sienna Pink apartment in Washington, D.C. Responding FBI agents leaped from a green armored personal carrier to raid the home of James, who has mysteriously disappeared without any explanation. The famous missing person case has gained popularity for a number of reasons. First, months before his unsolved disappearance, James had abruptly quit his journalism position at ABC. The unexpected ending was highly unusual and came without reason. Second, he was helping to write a New York Times bestseller titled Operation Pineapple Express, the incredible story of a group of Americans who undertook one last mission and honored a promise in Afghanistan. Without warning, he suddenly told the publishing company that he was stressed and needed to quit his research for reasons unknown, which again was a highly unexpected ending to their business partnership. Why the journalist quit his job and his book project remains an unsolved mystery, as does whether or not this has any relevance to the FBI raid. Case detectives are not giving any details as to what their investigation is about or what evidence they were looking to confiscate from his DC apartment. Although some stories allege that the journalist is possibly living with his mother, no official statement has come from James Gordon Meek, and months later, he continues to remain a missing person from the public eye. Number 2. In 2001, 22-year-old Marcus Barrell lived in Virginia Beach with a roommate named Carl. When his father Gregory last spoke to him, he had no idea that it would be the final phone call with his son. or that his strange disappearance would become an unsolved mystery years later. During that conversation in early December, Marcus had told Gregory that he was worried about giving his social security number to a man he had worked for. Gregory didn't think much of the conversation until he received a worried phone call from his son's roommate, Carl, on the 9th of December. According to Carl, Marcus had been missing from their Virginia Beach apartment for more than a week. This dark and disturbing mystery is what made Gregory report his son as a missing person. But when he told detectives that his son was known to travel and might be visiting friends out of state, investigators did not act with urgency. When January of 2002 came and Marcus remained a missing person, Gregory called police again to tell them the mysterious disappearance of Marcus was still unsolved. In the meantime, Carl had disappeared from Virginia Beach. The upstairs neighbor, Melissa, noticed some strangers cleaning out the apartment. When she asked what was going on, they refused to tell her the true story of what had happened. Investigators learned that Marcus's drawings, keyboard, and furniture were all taken. About 10 days after his strange disappearance, his car had gone missing as well. Months later, in April of 2002, the unsolved missing person case looked close to getting solved. Detectives in Virginia received word that records of Marcus had been found with the house deed, mailboxes, and utilities in the missing person's name. Marcus had purchased a 2,100 square foot house in Granite Falls, North Carolina, 400 miles from where his apartment was in Virginia Beach. Little did case investigators know that there were two different investigations at this property in Granite Falls. While they were looking to solve a missing person case, special FBI agents were also circling the North Carolina property for a raid of their own. Living in the house was not Marcus Barrell, but rather a 31-year-old insurance adjuster, Troy Beaudois, who purchased the home in Marcus's name. FBI agents were investigating Troy because from February of 2000 until November of 2001, he had taken over $200,000 from his job at an insurance company and fled. Between December of 2001 and January of 2002, as FBI agents tried to bring the missing person case to justice, they found Troy had obtained 3 DMV identification cards in Marcus's name. He also had a copy of Marcus's birth certificate, and he used this to renew Marcus's passport with his own photo and assume his identity. This is how, in April of 2002, Troy was able to purchase the North Carolina house and signed the documents as Marcus. This is what tipped off investigators in Virginia, who thought they had found their missing person. They were unaware that the FBI was building a case on Troy for the insurance scam. In May of 2002, Troy had returned to Virginia Beach and was ready to accept a plea deal for the missing $200,000. However, when one of his girlfriends tipped him off that FBI agents had interviewed her about Marcus's disappearance and that he was the main person of interest in a much larger criminal investigation, he took his own life in his hotel room the next day. The mysterious disappearance of Marcus Barrell has never been solved, and his body has never been found. In 2002, police searched Troy's former home in Norfolk, Virginia, with teams of cadaver dogs, but turned up no results. With Troy's demise and the mysterious disappearance of Marcus's roommate, Carl, there have been no further leads on Marcus's unsolved case. Anyone with information is urged to contact the Virginia Beach Police Department at 757-385-4023, referencing case number 2002-002-789. Number 1. This is the mysterious disappearance of Lori Ann Murchison Dunbar, who had bleached blonde hair and a dimple in her cheek that showed when she smiled. The 24-year-old Lori had been bouncing back and forth between Wilburton, Oklahoma and Fort Smith, Arkansas for some time before her strange disappearance would go unsolved by the FBI. On September 1st, 1995, Lori and her boyfriend Jerry were arrested during a traffic stop. They were both kept in the county jail overnight for being intoxicated, and the next morning, on September 2nd, Lori was released. She intended to pick up her paycheck from her job at Oaks Lodge Nursing Home, cash it, and return to the jail to bail Jerry out. She picked up a key to a motel room sometime between 2 and 4 p.m., then made plans with her mother to pick up her 4-year-old daughter the next day. However, she never picked up her paycheck or returned to the jail. On September 5th, Lori's mother reported her as a missing person case. Police followed a number of potential crime leads, even going as far as to dig up a plot of land near her motel during their search, but unfortunately found no evidence to solve what happened to Lori. In 2000, a new crime detective wanted to see her cold case solved and started working on a theory that her body had been hidden by someone she was partying with. However, these speculations were unfounded, and the case went cold until 5 years later. In 2005, FBI agents took over and began an investigation into a person of interest by the name of Ron Fields. In 1995, Ron Fields was the prosecuting attorney for Arkansas's 12th Judicial District. He held that post for nearly 20 years and eventually moved to Washington, D.C., where he worked for the DEA and the Department of Homeland Security. Because he was a public official, when he came under suspicion, the FBI had jurisdiction to investigate. Though the details have never been released to the public, Ron was accused by anonymous sources of collaborating with a former Fort Smith police captain to end the life of Lori and hide her missing body. In 2005, the case was brought before a grand jury in Washington, D.C., where the case remained unsolved due to a lack of evidence. Whether or not Ron played a role in Lori's disappearance has never been proven to be a true story. As recently as 2014, an FBI spokesperson simply told reporters that the agency could not comment on any crime cases, pending or otherwise. Anyone with information about Lori's case should reach out to the Fort Smith Police Department's Criminal Investigation Division at 479-709-5116. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.